Welcome to Legally Speaking. I'm your host, Sophia Haynes. Legally Speaking is a public service of You and the Law, whose mission is to provide legal resources and information to empower you in your legal affairs. It is not intended to be legal advice, so if you have an issue, make sure that you retain the services of a licensed attorney. Now, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're talking about combating domestic violence with two foremost experts in that area, Ms. Attorney Leroya Jennings and Ms. Erika Lee. Ms. Jennings served as the Deputy Chief of the Domestic Violence Unit in the DeKalb Solicitor's Office. Her other prosecution experience includes the City of Atlanta, Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and Coweta Solicitor's Office. Ms. Jennings regularly speaks on the topic of domestic violence and has trained law enforcement officers and coordinated community forums. She manages her own law practice, the law office of Leroya Jennings. Welcome, Leroya.
Thank you.
We also have Ms. Erika Lee. She is the founder of the PURSE Foundation, and she's also a motivational speaker who focuses on teen violence. Erika founded PURSE, partnering under real situations every day after the tragic death of a college friend. At that time, Erika was in an abusive relationship herself that could have claimed her life. The death of her friend gave her strength to leave that unhealthy relationship and help others that are facing abuse. Welcome, Erika.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Domestic violence is a topic that we hear a whole lot about, but I'm not sure that the public is really aware of exactly what it is. We have the impressions of the Ike and Tina Turner situation, and we think if it's not an Ike and Tina Turner type situation, then maybe I may not be in a domestic violence situation. So, Leroya, if you could start off, tell us exactly what is domestic violence.
Domestic violence can be verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, anything that by inflicted on one person by another person that causes that person to lose their own self-control in that relationship, essentially. And oftentimes you're right, people think it's supposed to escalate to that level of, abuse that you saw in the movie, and that you see in the movies, but it's not always the case.
So what are some of the signs that I may be in a domestic violence situation?
Okay. Some of those signs could start with someone trying to control you, someone trying to manipulate the things that you love, the things that you care about, to make you believe that they're all you need and they're all you deserve, quite frankly. And so anything that's trying to the signs could be from hitting to telling you to stop going around other people in your environment, being your friends, your family. The signs could be from them telling you to be at a certain place and a certain time, to do certain things at a certain time. I mean, it's a level of controlling you, and it starts there usually.
And Erika, do you see some of the same things with teens that you're dealing with, that are dealing with domestic violence situations?
Yeah, you see with the teens, you notice that they have increased mood swings. They also have a form of isolation in school. They develop, like I said, those mood swings to where they take those issues home with them. And like the parents, they just think that they're hormonal problems, but they're really issues that they're having with maybe a violence issue, and parents often overlook those issues that they encounter with their teens. It's just consider it as an adolescent phase. So
we need to tell the parents that it's not necessarily hormones. So
exactly.
Even if your teen is getting on your nerves,
yes,
check into it to make sure it's not something more serious.
Yeah, they have a loss of interest in their normal activities, so that's something to look for.
So do we see male and female victims of domestic violence, ladies?
Definitely. You can. Of course, most people, when they think of a domestic violence relationship, they clearly think about that relationship involving a male abusing a female. And studies do show that in most cases that is the case. However, I've seen it as a prosecutor. I know it to be so that there are men who are also in abusive situations. And as I've stated before, it does not always have to be that physical relationship. It can be that verbal, where someone is just trying to control that other person, and that other person as a result is feeling demeaned and degraded.
Okay, we spoke a little bit earlier about isolation. Tell us how that could be a sign that you may be heading toward a relationship that could turn abusive.
Certain signs to look for are isolation being one of them. Isolation is when that person essentially makes you believe that the people that you're with, the things that you do on a day-to-day basis shouldn't be done, or it should be done differently, and it shouldn't be around certain people. And essentially the reason that person is trying to isolate you is because if you surround yourself, or originally if you have a lot of people that love you and care about you, it makes it much harder to be in an abusive situation, because those people who truly love you will not allow you to be in a relationship that hurts you.
So what should I look out for to let me know that he's probably trying to get me, or she's trying to get me away from my family? What kind of signs? What would I hear them say?
You'll hear them usually a lot of negativity, a lot of negative words. Your mom doesn't like me. Your friends, don't like me. Don't hang around them. I think that they are putting things in your head. Things, and the way you pick up on it is because it won't be just a problem with one person. There'll be a problem with all the individuals that you hang around.
So nobody understand I love.
Yes, exactly. Nobody knows how much I feel about you. Don't pay attention to them. And in essence, there are in that relationship, they begin to believe that, and so they stop hanging around those friends that they used to hang around, because they say, y'all don't understand my relationship, so I'm going to leave you alone, and it's just going to be me and my new person who's the abuser.
What about finances? Is there one way that they use finances to control you in that situation?
And definitely, because we all want to be in some shape or form. Finances will help us all. So when you meet that person who tries to woo you and say, baby, you don't have to work, I got you, those are nice words, but in the end of the day, the problem is, if you don't have finances, your own finances, if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, then it will be much more difficult for you to leave, much more difficult for you to even consider leaving, because what those finances do, when you stop making your own money, it makes you dependent and reliant upon that person who's making the money for you. And unfortunately, that's part of the control.
You isolated again because you don't have any money to take care of yourself. Okay, so what about the effect on the children? Do we see an effect on children in these types of relationships?
And with the teens, I think a lot of times if you evaluate these teen relationships and you talk to these abusers, you'll clearly find out that oftentimes they have been in that same abusive relationship. Unfortunately, it becomes a cycle because that child is watching it. That child doesn't have to be abused. The abuse, and the law even says this as a prosecutor, the abuse is happening by that child being inflicted, or watching this abuse go on between their two parents, or between one parent and another person. That's abusive upon the child, because to see that they are forming a in their minds, they're being manipulated to believe what type of relationship they're supposed to get in when they get older. They're learning by watching, essentially.
So what would you say to an individual that's in a domestic violence situation that says, well, I'm staying here for stability of the children?
That's not a great reason, and that is a reason that's often given as a prosecutor. I heard it far too many times, and honestly, my response would be, if you love yourself and if you love your child, you will not continue to inflict this pain upon your child, because the child has no control. The child has to stay with you. The child can't choose to leave. So you have to have that power within yourself as the victim to think about the child and yourself, because ultimately you're putting more pain, you're inflicting more long-term pain on this child by staying in that relationship than you are in leaving it.
And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, because if they see anger, when they get angry, they're going to act out what they saw.
Yes.
And we try to tell our children what not to do, but they're going to do what they see us do rather than what we tell them to do.
That's correct.
What would you say to the teens that may be involved in a situation? What are some signs that they can look at? Because we know typically from the situations like Leroya is talking about, either the food's not cooked or my clothes weren't ironed just so, and like a crease down here on the 3/4 length of the corner, you didn't do that. What would some things we can tell a teen to let them know, okay, this may be a little bit too much, thin line between love and stalking, that can let them know they're in an abusive relationship?
Well, some things that teens can watch out for is the constant calling, the constant text messaging, at being asked, where
but
are
he
you?
like me.
Oh, no.
He want to be with me. That's why he
constant
calling me, because he can't
emails.
stand, because he think about me.
See, and those are things that we have to change the perception of, that that's not what makes a healthy relationship. And also the controlling of what you're wearing. Sometimes teens may encounter, oh, your pants are kind of tight today. That slowly increases into goes into another level. But that's how the control starts, with the constant text messaging, emailing, telling them where they can and cannot go. And once again, when teens being a teen, you take that as, oh, maybe he cares about me. He put his hands on me. Oh, he just loves me. He's showing that he cares. So he's acting a little jealous. So we have to change those perceptions of how they're thinking and what they think is love. And you guys are right when you were talking about, that learned behavior. Basically, they don't never see it. They can't actually have a healthy relationship until they're informed about what a healthy relationship is.
So is that something our parents can help them with? What is a healthy relationship?
Yes.
Should they be checking their phone and say, oh, maybe you got too many texts from Junebug? Could that help?
I mean, sometimes as parents, we can't be so out of our children's lives and try to identify with them as our friends and make sure that we have that friendship with them. We have to be the parent.
Yeah, I don't have any children, but all my nieces and nephews know they have no Fourth Amendment privileges in my house. So any bag is subject to search, any phone is subject to
You
search.
don't close the door.
You don't close the door. And I think sometimes parents have not gotten as vigilant as they should be, because there are a lot of mediums out there for someone to get to your child if they need to do that. Well, I can remember as a former prosecutor, Leroya, a lot of times the courts would say, you get some counsel at the church, or you may run into somebody that say, well, he hit me, but we getting counseling at the church. How can the church help if somebody's coming in and identifying these situations where you may not see them, but these people are going to get counseling?
And there are some churches within our communities that have very great counseling and resources within the church. Some people have experience and know how to counsel victims through domestic violence. The problem that you have to be careful with in the churches is not to counsel those two individuals together. That's a common problem that happens because...
And why is that a problem?
Because if I'm sitting next to my abuser and there is nothing that I'm going to tell you about this relationship, I'm going to allow the abuser to talk, because the abuser is already controlling my relationship, and I'm not going to be very frank and candid, and I would never tell you that I'm afraid. I would never advise a victim to do that in front of the pastor and the abuser. And so it is very important that they know that they talk with the victim independently of the abuser and figure out what's going on, because that's the only way you're going to get a frank answer.
So what about those, and it's a good thing, the churches that want to save the marriage? In your scenario where we counsel them separately, is there some point where I can meet both means to be able to do that? There
is, but everyone has to address their own independent issue, because everyone has it. The woman at that point will probably have low self-esteem that needs to be addressed. That man will have anger and controlling issues that need to be addressed. And those are two separate things. They can't be handled together. The classes don't address both of them. Each one needs to be in their own class.
So we need to be two wholes before we can come together, be a complete
You're
whole.
Exactly right.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how we can get some help. We've already identified what domestic violence is, and we want to talk about how we can get some help, how the court system, what the laws say about this, and where we can get some resources to help individuals that may be in that situation. We'll be back in a few moments. You are tuned into Legally Speaking, a public service of You and the Law. You and the Law is a nonprofit whose mission is to provide legal information and legal resources to empower you in your legal affairs. If you would like to have a question answered or a topic featured on Legally Speaking, feel free to contact us online at www.youandthelawtoday.org. You can also sign up there on our website for our mailing list, as well as follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Remember, with every right comes responsibilities, so know your rights and accept your responsibility. Welcome back. We're talking to Attorney Leroya Jennings and Erika Lee about combating domestic violence. Ladies, before we went to the break, we talked about exactly what domestic violence was, the effects on the children, and now I'm fed up. You done hit me one time too many. You done talked about me and got me away from all my family. It's time. I realize this is a problem. This is not love. I need to go. What should I have in place to make sure that I can do so safely? Because we've already talked about how we're in a controlling situation, and I'm sure the last thing that the abuser want to have is to lose that control. So how can I do so safely, Leroy?
Well, the first thing, if you are truly ready to go and you've made that decision, it's important for any victim to understand that if you are in an abusive relationship, that is the most dangerous time for you when you've decided to leave. I still encourage you leaving, but understand that at that point the abuser is losing control, and the loss of control will cause that abuser oftentimes to do drastic things, and those drastic measures will put danger upon your life and the life of your children. So when you're coming up with that plan, and it's usually called an exit plan, you want to make sure that you have that confidant, either it be a neighbor, a friend, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, someone that you can confide in who truly understands the dynamics of your relationship, will not go back and tell that person she's about to leave you, because that's the last thing he needs to know. And will know that when you are ready, that person needs to be there to take you and do whatever it is that you need for them to do for you. It's time for you to separate yourself financially, maybe have a nice stash, separated that he can't discover, pack your clothes, decide where you're gonna stay, and there are a lot of community resources out there, free community resources, that will help you in planning that exit strategy.
That's great, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. So Erika, what do you tell teens that have realized, oh, it's a thin line between love and stalking, and this is straight stalking, and I need to get out of this? So what do you tell them on how they can get out?
Well, first of all, one of the things I tell them is to never just to bear it alone. Like you said, make sure you tell someone. That's the only way that you can really get help, because you can't carry that alone, because you will find yourself staying in it way too long. So just tell someone, whether it's a friend, or in hopes of getting help. So just don't carry it alone. That's one of the best things that you can do is, as a teen, talk to someone.
Okay, great.
Talk to someone responsible that can help you out of that situation.
So what about school counselors, principals? Has that proved helpful?
Oftentimes, I think that has been helpful, that some students have developed those relationships with the administrators in the schools. But at the same time, I think having someone outside the parameters of the school has been beneficial as well, because it's embarrassing to be in a situation like that, first off. So they don't want everyone in their business, where they have to actually walk and see these people every day and people know their story. So sometimes going outside of those school walls is also helpful.
So what did you do?
What I did is I had a friend that a well-trusted friend that actually told my mother. So if it wasn't for that friend to actually take that responsibility and tell my mother, I probably could have been still in it and probably wouldn't be here today.
So we hit it. No snitching. So that was a good snitch.
That was a good snitch.
So snitching can be good, huh?
That's
Yes.
an example of people who love you.
Exactly.
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 Corrected or wrong. Okay, my abuser has been arrested. What can I expect for as far as protection in the court system? What's available out there for me, Leroya?
And these may not go in this order because every county is different, but at some point you're going to touch bases, usually with most court systems, with some type of victim advocate. Either it be from the prosecutor's office or from a community office, but there's an advocate who will touch bases with you and lead you, quite honestly, through the process. You can that will be one of the people that will get in touch with you, but you can also expect that if that person is released, they will be released on a bond. That bond can have special conditions, and in most counties now who are very serious about domestic violence and combating this issue of domestic violence will put conditions of a contact. And what type of contact, and in most cases it is a no contact provision, but in some cases there's a no violent contact.
And do I have any say so in no contact or no violent contact?
Yes, you do, and that's exactly why usually the advocate will reach out to the victim prior to that contact being established to let you know of that court date. So that you'll know when to attend and when to have, how you can have say on that, or you can just not attend and communicate it through the victim advocate.
Okay, I love him. I want to drop the charges. How does that work? Did you bring a charge first?
Right. and that's it. And I'll tell you this, in being a prosecutor, oftentimes victims nor abusers understand this process, but it was a lovely word when I could say it's not her or his choice, meaning it's not the victim's choice at this point. Once arrested, it is out of the victim's hand in terms of dropping the charge. And what that is I understand the dynamics of domestic violence. I'm trying to take that control or away from the victim in terms of so the abuser won't blame them. Right. And I tell the victim, go back home and say, you have no say in this. She's doing it regardless. The prosecutor has decided to prosecute, because at that point the blame is somewhere else. The blame has shifted, because otherwise if the victim and the abuser are thinking this, then you're still in that dangerous situation. So yeah, there's no such thing as dropping the charges. Of course we need the victims to go forward on cases, but in the counties now, they're not just dismissing these cases simply
that's my next question. Okay, well, I just won't show up then. Okay, so what happens when they don't show up?
They being the victim, when the victim does not show up, oftentimes the victims will be hand served or served with a subpoena to come, forced to come, because we want to get as prosecutors, it's important to get both sides of the story and to understand. And so even if the victim comes, whatever she comes with saying, we need to hear that story. We need to understand what's going on. And as a prosecutor, it was important for me to understand each individual story, because everyone had a story. And sometimes the story cleared up the defendant if it sounded credible. But in most cases, that victim, when that door shut, that victim had a story to tell, and it wasn't the first time.
So if I'm at court and I'm seeing the black eye, more than likely something has happened before then. Definitely, because it doesn't start there usually with the physical, because you know, we all think we would never be in that type of relationship. We all start with that mentality. I can't believe that anyone starts with that mentality of, I'm going to be in an abusive relationship. I want somebody to hit on me. So we all usually start with that mentality. It would never happen to me. So when it happens, when that arm is grabbed for the first time, or your face is slapped, you got to get over that initial shock that, wow, I just allowed someone to strike me. That'd be my exit strategy. I'm just saying.
And so it's difficult.
Okay, so what about TPO's restraining orders? How are they helpful, and how can they be helpful for someone that's in that situation?
They are, because most people look at it as it's just a piece of paper, but it's very important that you set up roadblocks, because each roadblock, I mean, if a person wants you, they can potentially get you. But if you set up roadblocks and you tie that person out so that person can possibly seek counseling for themselves, then that will help the situation. And you have to show that person that it's not okay, because you're holding that person accountable every time you're setting up some type of roadblock, either it be a TPO or that family member or something to that effect.
So if I want to participate in this process, or I want the abuser to get help, can the court order them to get some help?
Yes.
And can I ask my victim advocate for that?
Yes.
What type of information, classes, resources are available for the abuser to make that person stop abusing?
There are 24-week classes, and that class is a class taught by someone who specializes in this type of dynamics of relationship, and that class has other abusers in it. Only abusers, only one gender, usually males. There are female classes as well, but it's just that gender, it's just that abuser, because you're addressing the issues of control and controlling yourself, not that other person, because that's the key in the end of the day.
And this show is all about resources, so we want to make sure that we talk about resources. So what other resources are out there for victims?
If there's a national hotline, 1-800-HAVEN, HAVEN, that you can call. You can also get online with the Women's Resource Center, and there are national organizations with 1-800 numbers that you want to call if you're in any type of relationship that will assist you in with financial assistance, with children, with pets, with anything that you can think of. There is no reason for you to stay in that relationship. They will help you have an exit plan.
What about finances? If I don't have the money to leave, is there somebody that can help me with that?
There are. The Women's Resource Center is one of a great agency, because they are the larger agency that can outsource you to different other agencies that would specifically address the finances. These are nonprofit organizations. They are free, and they're there and ready to help you.
Okay, so tell us about PURSE, Erika.
Well, PURSE stands for Partnering Under Real Situations Every Day. And the goal and mission of PURSE is basically just to go into the schools and inform teens about violence and the red flags and things that they should be looking out for, so they don't happen to encounter a situation like this. And if they notice these signs, that they can back away from those relationships.
So if I'm confused and I don't know if I'm in a situation, how could I get information about PURSE?
You can go to the website, www.pursefoundation.com, and information on that website, it's some warning signs on there that lets you know that you may be in an abusive relationship. You can go there, and there's also the national teen line for you if you notice that you are in an abusive relationship.
Okay. And now that you're not prosecuting anymore, how can somebody reach you to maybe get some help to navigate through this situation, Ms. Jennings?
I have a website as well, www.ChesterJenningsLaw.com, ChesterJenningsLaw.com, and there's information on that website about domestic violence. I will assist you in obtaining a temporary protective order and give you the resources that you need. I will also assist in divorces in terms of helping you separate yourself, not only financially but legally within that relationship if you are married to your abuser.
Well, the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is that love should not hurt. And there are a lot of resources out there that are available for you if you are in that particular situation. You can actually go on our website, youandthelawtoday.org, and there are several links to the organizations that Ms. Jennings spoke about, on where you can get information to get help to get out of that situation. Remember, Legally Speaking, every Sunday at 6 p.m. And until next time, with every right comes responsibility. So know your rights, accept your responsibilities. We'll see you next week.